ॐ दक्षिणस्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशव वामन कृष्ण पाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। शान्तिपाठ। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So we saw in the first two mantras the glory of Brahma Vidya and also the tradition and the parampara through which this holy teaching or this exalted teaching or this teaching of Brahma Vidya came. And we saw in the second verse that, ultimately, where did it start? It started with Brahmaji or Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma, the very first being who manifested and created the entire creation. From there, along with him, all the Vedic mantras also came. And then he passed on this particular Vidya, Brahma Vidya, to his Manasaputra, Jeshtaputra, Atharva. And Atharva passed on this particular Vidya to Angir, Rishi Angir. Angir passed on this particular Vidya to his Shishya Satyavaha Bharadwaja. And then Satyavaha Bharadwaja transferred or gave this Vidya to Angiras. And now we are coming to the actual Sambada between Angiras and Shaunaka, which is actually the subject matter of Mundakopanishad. And we know that all Upanishads have the same subject matter, which is Atma Vidya. What is Atma Vidya? Knowing the truth of oneself, the Swarupam of Jiva, knowing the truth of the Jagat, that with which we are transacting, and knowing the truth of Ishvara, that intelligence which is maintaining the order in the universe and in the Jiva. The Jiva Jagat interaction, the Jiva Jagat transaction, which is maintained by various laws, is nothing but this Ishvara. And knowing the very truth of Jiva Jagat Ishvara, the very Satyam, the very content, the very Tattvam of Jiva Jagat Ishvara, that is the core teaching of all the Upanishads. And Mundaka Upanishad also has this teaching, where ultimately says that there is one thing, Ekam Advitiyam, without a second one, which is called as Brahman, which is this consciousness, which is the very content of the Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. And this is the Vidya, which is called as the Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya, Sarva Vidya Pratishtham, he said. Brahma Vidya, which is Sarva Vidya Pratishtha. He passed on this Vidya, who? Lord Brahma, to this particular lineage. So we saw the importance of Atma Vidya, which is the very content of all the Vidyas, all the Laukika Vidyas, all the material Vidyas, all the material sciences arise in this Brahma Vidya only. And therefore, this Brahma Vidya is what? The teaching that there is one thing which is the content of the entire universe. This Brahma Vidya is the pratishtha, or which is the support of all other sciences, all other material sciences. And in the second verse he said, Bharadvajaha Angirase Paravaram. The last line. So this Bharadvaja Gotra Utpanna Satyavaha, this Bharadvaja Rishi passed on this particular Vidya to Angiras, who is the teacher, the Acharya of what we are going to study now, Acharya of Mundakopanishad. Now, there is a word here which I should explain in more detail. Bharadvajaha Angirase Paravaram. What is the meaning of Paravaram? Para means higher, Avara means lower. Para avara means from higher to lower. And what does it mean? Any knowledge is transmitted from higher intellect, which has this knowledge, to the lower intellect, to the Shishya who does not have this knowledge. Therefore, the Guru is considered to be the higher Para, and Avara means the Shishya who does not have this knowledge. And it is always said that knowledge flows from the higher to the lower. Just like a river flows from heights, from the mountains down to the plains. That is why Vidya, any Vidya, is called as Jnana Ganga. Ganga river is compared to Vidya, which starts from the very feet of Vishnu, passes through the very jata of Shiva, and then comes down to purify the entire Jagat. And Brahma Vidya is like that. This Vidya has come from Ishvara, and then it has come through all these rishis, and it has reached us to purify us. Purify us in what extent? To remove all the ignorance, all the mala of ignorance from us. So Paravara means that Vidya which has flown, or flown means it has passed on from a higher intellect of the Guru to the lower. The intellect is not high or low. The intellect which has this knowledge, that is the Guru, is considered to be higher, and an intellect of the Shishya who does not have this knowledge is called as the lower or Avara. And that is why it is said that the student or the Shishya sits at the feet of the Guru. One of the definitions of Upanishad, where the Shishya goes to the Guru, sits at the feet of the Upanishad, and gets this knowledge which is transferred, Paravaram. This is the meaning of Paravaram. So this Vidya came from the higher, that is from the highest, from Lord Brahma himself, down to his Shishya, down to his Shishya, down to his Shishya. And then it came to our Guru Shishya, who are going to be the teachers of this Upanishad, where the Samvada is going to take place between Guru Angiras and Shishya Shaunaka. And we started the third verse in the last session, where we read it. We'll read it again. Shaunako havai mahashalaha Angirasam vidivad upasannaha papracha Kasminnu bhagavo vignate sarvamidam vignatam bhavati iti. So, Shaunaka, the Shishya, approached the Guru. Who is the Guru here? The Guru is Angiras. And who is the Shishya here? Shaunaka. What kind of a Shishya is he? He is described here as Mahashala. What is the meaning of Mahashala? He is a great Grahastha. So we should know that Grihasthas are not denied this knowledge. Most of our rishis who had this knowledge and who passed it on to their Shishyas were very great Grihasthas. And then he says here Mahashala. The meaning of Mahashala is a great Grahastha. What is the meaning of a great Grahastha here, Mahashala? A person who was a Vaidika, a Grahastha, and who carried on a number of rituals and yajnas as per the Veda Purva. So Shala here means the one who had big Yagashalas, Yajnashalas, where the rituals were performed. The rituals that are taught in the Veda Purva, this Grihastha Rishi carried on fully as was advised. And to have this kind of yagas and yajnas and rituals, one feeds people at in such kind of rituals. Feeding Annadanam, feeding people is one of the most important aspect of any yaga or yajna. Dakshina is one part, yes, but feeding people is a very important part of all the yagas and yajnas. And so he had a great pakashala also. So a grahastha who had big yajnashalas and big pakashalas and who conducted a number of rituals, yajnas and yagas as given in the Veda Purvas. Therefore, he is called as a Mahashala. Does it mean that this kind of a knowledge is meant only for such grahasthas? No, it does not mean that. What it means is that a person, a grahastha, who is fully prepared, whose mind is fully prepared after having followed whatever is given by the Veda Purva. Depending upon his situation and his condition, Shaunaka may be a Mahashala. But then what it means is that grihasthas are not bereft of this knowledge. A grihastha who is not as great as Shaunaka also is capable of getting this knowledge, provided that this grihastha is prepared for this knowledge. What it means is that the Shishya is fully prepared for this knowledge. Being a Grihastha and a Vaidika and following all the Veda Purva, whatever has to be done by a Grihastha, with the attitude of Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, this Shaunaka, who indicates all the other Grihasthas also, who are prepared for this knowledge after having lived a lifestyle of dharma as given by our Vedas in the Veda Purva. Such a person whose intellect is prepared for this knowledge is a Shishya who is relevant. It is such a Shishya only who is capable of getting this knowledge. So the qualifications of a Shishya are given. Shaunako Havai Mahashalaha. So he was a great Grahastha who lived a lifestyle of a Vaidika as per the tenets of Veda Purva and who had prepared his intellect ultimately to go to Vedanta and receive this knowledge. And what did he do? Angirasam vidhivat upasarnaha. He as a student, he as a shishya approached the Guru vidhivat. What is the meaning of vidhivat? That one has to go with humility. The shishya has to bend and touch the feet of the Guru and do namaskara, indicating the humility on the part of the shishya. That humility means I am willing to learn from you. I know that you know something auspicious, something exalted, which I do not know. And I want you to give that Vidya to me. And I am humble enough to leave aside all my ahankaras, however great I am, whoever I am, I am willing to learn it from you. This humility, at the same time, asking the right question, asking for this knowledge. And also, it is said that in Vedas, it is said that a Shishya approaches the Guru with dry twigs called Samit in his hand, Samit Panihi. That is to indicate that I am willing to serve you, I am willing to do seva to you, shushrusha to you. At the same time, my intellect is well prepared, like the dry twigs, which is ready to be lit up by the fire of knowledge from you. That is, in other Upanishads, we have instances where Lord Indra, who's the Lord or the King of the gods, goes to Prajapati Brahma for this Vidya and goes and surrenders to Prajapati and asks for this Vidya. This is what is called as the Prajapati Vidya, where Prajapati, as the teacher, gives this knowledge to Indra. There also, even though Indra is the Lord of Devas, head of heaven, Swarga, he goes, surrenders to the Guru and asks for this knowledge. And therefore it is said that vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, what we studied in Bhagavad Gita. And also, what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Yajna, dana, and tapa are necessary to prepare one for this knowledge. Pavanani manushyanam, yajna, dana, tapaha, they're all pavanani. They're all karmas which are purifying karmas for the human beings to purify their intellects to get this knowledge. And any grihastha who is given this opportunity to do all these karmas and upasanas based on Veda Purva, done with the attitude of karma yoga and upasana yoga, is a person who is prepared, his mind, his intellect is prepared to receive this knowledge from the appropriate guru. And such a grihastha approaches the guru and asks for this knowledge, which is what our Shaunaka also did. And papracha, he asked this question, pariprashna. As I told you in the last session, Brahma Vidya is not something which is given without the Shishya asking for it. Who asks for this knowledge? Only those who are prepared for it and those who are mature enough to understand what this means. Only such people ask for this knowledge. That is why we find that people who are the listeners for these sessions are very few, and they become fewer and lesser over a period of time, because Brahma Vidya, to understand, requires a commitment of time, energy, to be at it, and one should know the importance of it. Therefore, it is said that if Brahma Vidya is given to anybody who doesn't ask for it, that means a person who is unprepared for it and a person who doesn't have a value for it, it is not going to benefit. Nothing will happen. One may listen to it, one may come and sit in the class and listen. But if a person doesn't have a value for it, if a person is not prepared for this knowledge, the knowledge, just mere listening also will give punya, there's no doubt about it. Mere words of the Upanishads, listening also will give punya. That's what Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also. Without even understanding the meaning, if you merely listen to the Gita or chant it also, it will give you some punya. And Lord Krishna goes to the extent of saying that those who chant the Gita without even knowing what it means will go to heaven, Swarga Prapti. Of course, sometimes the phala given in all these things is a little bit exaggerated. It is only to make people interested in this Vidya. That's all. So, what does Shaunaka do? He goes to the Guru Angiras and asks this question. This is where we stopped in the last session. He asked, Kasminnu bhagavo vijnate sarvamidam vijnatam bhavati. So he asked this question, Hey Bhagavaha, Hey Bhagavan. This is how he addresses the Guru. Hey Bhagavan, Hey Guru, Hey Bhagavan. So he says, Kasmin no vijnate. What is it that by knowing which sarvamidam vijnatam bhavati? Everything is as though known, everything essentially known. What is that one thing by knowing which everything is as well as known? This is the question. Now, the question may look very funny to us. How is it that by knowing one thing, you can know everything else? There are so many things in this universe, correct? By knowing one tree, I'm not going to know everything else. By knowing one flower, I'm not going to know everything else. By reading one book, I'm not going to know everything else. So, what is the meaning of this particular question? Kasminu vijnate sarvamidam vijnatam bhavati. What is the principle behind this question? That is what we should know. What is the principle? That is, when we see this whole universe around us, then we see various millions of names and forms in this universe. There are various things in this universe. This is nothing but a product. What we are seeing is nothing but a product, an effect, a karyam. Karyam means a product or an effect. If whatever we are seeing here is a karyam, there must be a karanam. There must be a cause. There must be a material with which this whole world that we are experiencing is made. So, what is the cause, or what is the content, or what is the substance with which this entire universe is made? Knowing this substance, I know essentially the substance of the entire universe. This is what is the principle of this question. Now let us understand it by taking an example. We see a number of, let's take the example of gold and ornaments, which every one of us know, familiar with, easy to understand also. So we see gold and various ornaments. We have, say, 20 grams of gold, and we have converted that gold into a bangle or a necklace or one of the ornaments. What is an ornament? It is the karyam. Like that, we have many ornaments of different shapes, different sizes, different utilities, different functions. A bangle, and maybe we all have. Every one of us have a jewelry box, and when you open, you see a lot of things. Karyams. So, what is a karyam? The effect. Now, is there a common cause for all these ornaments? Yes. What is that common cause? Gold is the common cause for all the gold ornaments. So what is gold? Moola karanam, the basic cause, the material cause, Moola karanam for all the gold ornaments. So why? What is the way the question has to be understood is, if I know gold as the Moola Karanam, it is as good as I know all the ornaments. Correct? A bangle is a mere shape, a form with a particular utility. A necklace is a mere form with a shape with a particular utility. Correct? What is the Moola Karanam? It is the gold. What is the Moola Karanam of a bangle? It is gold. So, supposing us, what is that content? What is the Karanam? What is the material of all these ornaments, by knowing which, as though I have known everything. So, all the ornaments are mere names and forms. There is not an iota of material more. What is the value of a bangle? It is the value of the gold. What is the value of a chain? It is the value of the gold with which it is made. If I have a 20-gram gold and I convert it into a bangle, the bangle also measures only 20 grams. It does not measure 21 grams or 22 grams. What is the value that is added? No value is added. The value of the bangle is the value of the gold, Mula Karanam. The value of the necklace is the value of the Mula Karanam, the gold. Therefore, similarly, if we look at the whole universe, there is a Mula Karanam, a basic cause for this entire universe, which we divide into Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. We see many names and forms, millions of names and forms we see. But what are those names and forms? There is no value for these names and forms. What is the value? The basic Moola Karanam is the value of the entire universe. Whatever is the appearance is a mere name and form. The appearance has no value. Like the appearance of a bangle has no value. It is the gold in that appearance, the Mula Karanam, which has got value. Many other examples can be given like this. Clay and all the clay substances made up of clay. Water or ocean with its waves. Any of these reasons. But gold and ornaments is very easy to understand. So, when a thief comes to steal your ornaments, he's not interested in the ornaments. He doesn't bother whether it's a bangle or a ring or whatever it is. He's only bothered about the gold. When we are purchasing the ornaments, we may be purchasing with the intention of putting them on various parts of the body. But what is it that we are looking for? It is the basic cause, the value of the basic cause called as gold. Isn't it? Therefore, kasminnu vijnate sarvam idam vijnatam bhavati means by knowing that one mula karanam, everything else is as though known, because that is the content of everything. The Mula Karanam, or the material from which the whole universe is made, that is the Karyam also. Karanam eva Karya Rupena Bhavati. It is the Karyam which is actually nothing but an appearance, but from the Mula Karanam. So, what is the question here? Karana Vijnanena Karya Vijnanam. By knowing what the Karanam is, what the cause is, what the basic material is, I know what the effect is, what the product is. Does it mean then that by knowing physics, I will know chemistry, or by knowing mathematics, I'll know economics, or by knowing music, I will know some other subject? No. These are all the material knowledges which are based upon this original scriptural knowledge called as Brahman, which is the Moola Karanam. That's why it was said in the previous verse that Sarva Vidya Pratishtha. This Vidya or this knowledge of Brahman, the Moola Karanam, which is the basis for all other knowledges. So the question here is that by knowing Brahman, I'm not going to start knowing Chinese, which I don't know now. Not that. What the meaning of this is, Karana Vijnanena Karya Vijnanam. Moola Karana Vijnanena Karya Vijnanam. That is what? By knowing the basic material, the basic truth, the basic tattvam, the basic sattva, that is which or stuff with which the whole universe is made. What is that stuff? I want to know. So, what is this Shaunaka saying? I know, I have heard, I am aware that there is something which is the Moola Karanam, the basic stuff with which this entire universe is made. If Shaunaka is a Mahashala, a person who has spent his entire lifetime on following the Veda Purva, he is also aware that there is something the Vedas describe other than this, which is the Karanam of this entire universe. And he wants to know what is it that is the Moola Karanam of this entire universe. Knowing this one cause, knowing this one basic cause, I know What is it that the whole universe is made of? What is the stuff with which this whole universe is made? In an Upanishad called Chandogya Upanishad, this is what Uddalaka Rishi asked his son Shvetaketu. Hey Shvetaketu, you have come back from Gurukulam after studying for 12 years in the Gurukulam. Did you ask your teacher for this knowledge, by knowing which everything is known? And what does Shvetaketu say? No, I did not ask. Is there something like that? Is there something by knowing which everything is known? What is that something? Hey Father, hey Bhagavan, teach me. And that is what Uddalaka teaches his son Shvetaketu, which is the very famous Mahavakya, which we call as Tattvamasi, which is the very core central teaching of all the Upanishads. So here he asks, Kasminnu Bhagavo Vijnate Sarvamidam Vijnatam Bhavati. That means, what is that Moola Karanam, which is the very stuff with which this entire universe is made? In our scriptures, this Moola Karanam, with which this entire universe is made, that in which the entire universe arises, that in which this entire universe is existing and supported, that in which at the time of Pralaya the entire universe along with all the jivas resolves. This particular cause, Moola Karanam, is called as Brahman. What is this Brahman? That which is limitless, which is all pervading, which is the content of every name and form in the universe, which we have already studied in all our previous texts. So, what is the meaning of this particular question? Hey Bhagavan, I want to know what that Brahman is. I want to know that Moola Karanam of this entire universe, which I have heard. He doesn't mention it is called Brahman. He doesn't mention that, but he is aware of it. See, in Bhagavad Gita also, though Arjuna is not a jnani, he is aware that there is something which is the cause of this entire universe. He has heard of various names. He asks Krishna, Lord Krishna, what is Brahma? What is Purusha? What is Prakriti? What is Neyam? What is Adhiyajnam? What is Adhibhutam? What is Adhidaivam? He asks these questions. Why? Because he is aware that there is something like that. Anybody who has studied the Vedas, Veda Purva, are not totally ignorant of Vedanta. They are aware that there is something else that I should know, and they are preparing their minds for it. And when they go to the teacher, they ask the specific question as to Kasminnu Bhagavo Vijnate Sarvamidam Vijnatam Bhavati. Karana Vijnanena Karya Vijnanam. Material cause Vijnanena product Vijnanam. Cause Vijnanena effect Vijnanam. That is what is the question that is asked by Shaunaka, the Shishya, to the Guru. This is the Pariprashna he asks after surrendering to the Guru for this knowledge. Then, what does the Guru say? He answers in the next mantra. Now, the answer that he gives, the answer that Angiras gives, is not a direct answer. He gives him an indirect answer. See, it is a teaching methodology where teachers have their own way of introducing the subject. To introduce Brahman, to introduce the Moola Karanam of this entire Jagat, every teacher introduces it in different ways. Angiras, the Guru here, he introduces the topic in a different way by telling our Shaunaka that there are two types of knowledge. He doesn't come straight away to Brahman. So he wants to give two types. What are those two types of knowledge? That is what he wants to give this particular knowledge to Shaunaka. So what does he say? The answer is in the mantra form. Tasmai sahovacha dve vidye veditavye itihasma yad brahmavido vadanti parachaiva aparacha. So he straight away does not talk about Brahman. He does not say anything about Brahman. Tasmai sahovacha. Tasmai, kasmai, Shaunaka, for to Shaunaka. Shaunaka, who is the Shishya. To Shaunaka, Sahovacha, who is Angirasa said. Angirasa talked to Shaunaka and said this. What did he say? Dve vidye veditavye. There are two vidyas, two types of knowledge that are supposed to be known. That there are two types of knowledge. Let's see, he will himself explain what these two types of knowledge are. This is a purely an introductory mantra. So he says, Dve vidye veditavye iti ha sma. So he said that, he declared, he said, he told Shaunaka who Angiras. What did he say? Dve vidye veditavye. Hey Shaunaka, there are two types of knowledges. There are two types, basically two types of knowledge. You should know them. You are asking for a type of knowledge which is called as Paravidya or Brahmavidya or spiritual knowledge. The content of the entire universe, the Mula Karanam. But there is another type of Vidya called as Apara Vidya, which is a lower kind of knowledge, which can be called as the material sciences or material knowledge. So he says, Yad Brahmavido Vadanti. I'm not saying it. Brahmavidaha, those who are the knowers of Brahman, those who are the knowers of Veda, those who have studied the Vedas, they say that there are two types of knowledges. What are they? One is the spiritual knowledge, one is the material knowledge. It is the Veda Purva which gives you the material knowledge, whereas it is the Vedanta which gives you the spiritual knowledge. What are the differences now between the Paravidya and Aparavidya? Paravidya talks about this Moola Karanam, Brahman. So Paravidya is Brahma Vidya. It is complete in itself. It is totally complete. Once a person knows this Vidya clearly, the person is completely free from this samsara. It is a transformative knowledge. It frees you from all your bondage. It does not get you into more bondage. Whereas what is Apara Vidya? It is a lower kind of Vidya which has many streams of knowledge. Many streams. In today's world, at least, there are hundreds of streams of knowledge. People can go to any stream of knowledge. Hundreds of streams of knowledge are there which are material sciences. Material sciences. Physics, chemistry, biology, this, that, in so many branches of knowledge. But what are they talking about? They are talking about the name and form material of the objective universe. They are not talking about the Moola Karanam. They are the Karya Vidyas. Apara Vidya is a material science. Material Vidya, Karya Vidya, it is talking about various Karya Vidyas. What are these Karya Vidyas? Every branch of knowledge, every branch of Karyam, different branches. There are details of these Vidyas. There are absolute details of these Vidyas where one goes deeper and deeper and deeper into this particular knowledge. These are what is called as the Karya Vidyas or called as the Apara Vidya. Apara Vidya. Now, Apara Vidya is what? Apara Vidya is the material sciences, the basic sciences which are material sciences, which talk about the material objects of this world, the names and forms of this world. But what is Paravidya? It is that Vidya which talks about the Mula Karanam, or the very stuff with which this universe is made. Therefore, he says, Brahmavido Vadanti. The knowers of Brahman say that there are two types of Vidya. What are they? Paravidya and Aparavidya. So he says, Yad Brahmavido Vadanti Parachaiva Aparacha. Parachaiva Aparacha. It is necessary for us to know Aparavidya, otherwise we can't survive in this jagat, isn't it? I should know some basic mathematics. I should know some basic languages. I should know some basic things as to how this world functions. It is not possible for us to manage without Aparavidya. But what is the difference between Paravidya and Aparavidya? Paravidya is complete knowledge. It removes my ignorance once and for all. It frees me from bondage once and for all. Then what is Aparavidya? The more I know, the more there is to know. The more I learn a particular thing, I understand, the less I know. I find somebody else knows much more than me. Somebody else knows much less than me. There is taratamya in that. Here in Brahma Vidya, there is no taratamya. Either I know or I don't know. There's no question of part knowledge here. Here, Apara Vidya, one can know partially. We'll know only partially. Nobody can know any Apara Vidya 100% fully. Aparavidya doesn't transform me in any way. It does not remove my Mula Avidya, my real ignorance which is causing me bondage. What does this Aparavidya do? Keep me more in bondage. There is comparison, there is Matsarya, there is Irsha, there is more and more bondage. This keeps me in more bondage. The more Aparavidya I know, the more incomplete I feel. Whereas Paravidya is that which makes me realize my Purnatvam. Aparavidya makes me realize more and more how deficient I am in Aparavidya. So this is the difference between Paravidya and Aparavidya. So all the material sciences, the material subjects which we study, they are called as the Aparavidya, and the Vidya or the knowledge that talks about the very stuff or the very content or the very pratishtha of all these Vidyas. This is what is called as the Paravidya, the Vidya of Brahman. That is what talks about this Mula Karanam. This is what is called as the Paravidya. Now, in the next verse, in the fifth verse, Angiras is going to talk about what is this Aparavidya. He gives details of Aparavidya from the point of view of the Vedas themselves. See here, this is a Vedic text which has started at the beginning of creation. So here in Aparavidya, no question of physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, all those things are not talked about. Here in the fifth verse, Aparavidya from the point of view of the Vedas itself is talked about. And he describes what is Aparavidya and what is Paravidya. Let us read the mantra 5. तत्र अपरा ऋग्वेदो यजुर्वेदः सामवेदो अथर्ववेदः शिक्षा कल्पो व्याकरणं निरुक्तं छन्दो ज्योतिषमिति अथः परायया तद् अक्षरम् अधिगम्यते. So first Angiras describes about the Aparavidya. He says, you'll be surprised. Now we are surprised looking at this. Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda are Aparavidya, he says. Correct? So what is the meaning of this? The material science part of the Vedas or the Veda Purva is called as Aparavidya. What does Veda Purva talk about? How you should lead your life, what you should do. If you want to live a dharmic life, how a Vedika should live, what are the do's and don'ts, what is Nitya Karma, what is Naimitika Karma, what is Nishiddha Karma, what is the Dharma of a Grihastha, what is the Dharma of a Brahmachari, how to do this particular karma, how to do this particular yaga, how to do this particular upasana. So, the material part or the Veda Purva, which talks about the material sciences, is here taught by Angiras as Aparavidya, not the Vedanta part of it. Even the words of Vedanta are Apara only. The book, this book, when I say Mundakopanishad, the words contained in this book are Apara only. That vritti in my mind, that understanding in my mind, which removes my ignorance, that is Paravidya. But what does Upanishad contain? The words which lead to Paravidya. But what does Veda Purva contain? It talks about all the material sciences which ultimately tell us how to improve our life here, how to attain higher lokas after death, how to get whatever you want in your life. All these are the contents of Aparavidya. So, what does he say? Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, Atharvana Veda. All the four Vedas, their material parts, the Veda Purva part, the initial part of the Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda of all the Vedas are Aparavidya. What is Rig Veda? Rig Veda is where the mantras are in the form of verses with proper meters. Yajurveda is what? The Veda whose mantras are in the prose form. What is Samaveda? The Veda in which the mantras are in the musical form. Atharvana Veda what? It contains both, the prose form and also the verse form of mantras, but which are meant for Shanti, which are meant for a person's, to improve a person's general well-being. Therefore, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvana Veda mantras, which are in the Veda Purva part, which are representing the material knowledge, are nothing but Aparavidya. And to understand these Vedas, we have auxiliary sciences or branches called as Vedangas. Four Vedas are there: Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva, or Atharvangi Rasa Veda also it is called as. And all these Vedas contain the Veda Purva, which is the material sciences, Vedanta, which is the Brahma Vidya, the words which lead to Brahma Vidya. And to understand these, to understand this, Vedas, we have what is called as the Vedangas. What are Vedangas? Vedangas are nothing but the auxiliary sciences which help one to understand what is written in the Vedas. There are 6 Vedangas. What are those 6 Vedangas? Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Niruktam, Chandas, and Jyotisham. All these are also Aparavidyas. To understand the Veda Purva, we have to have some sub vidyas, some auxiliary sciences which are necessary to understand the Vedas. They are called as Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Niruktam, Chandas, Jyotisham. Now let us just understand very briefly, let us not go into the details of all this, let us just understand what it means. Shiksha means phonetic science, how a word should be pronounced. Science of pronunciation. Science of pronunciation or phonetics is called as Shiksha. Because earlier the Vedas were given from the Guru to the Shishya through Karna Vidya. There was no writing here that time. It was something which had to be grasped by the Shishya by mere listening, and he had to remember it. And he had to know how to pronounce the varnas, the alphabets, the words correctly. Because even a little mistake in the pronunciation of the word or the varna could give rise to a complete change in the meaning. Also, the mantras had to be chanted in adequate swaras. Like we chanted the Shanti Patana Bhadram Karnevi, with a particular swara we chanted, Swarita. Then Anudatta, Udatta swaras we chanted. So how a particular word in the Vedas should be chanted for its proper effect. If a mantra is chanted without the swara, it does not give its benefit. That is why it is said swarahani mantrahani. If there is a swarahani, there is mantrahani. Therefore, all the Vedic mantras have to be chanted in their proper swaras. So, what is the swara with which it should be chanted? How the particular word should be pronounced? How a particular letter should be pronounced? Which swara should go to which letter? This particular science of pronunciation or phonetics is called as Shiksha. It is very necessary to study the Vedas. So, Shiksha is a Vedanga, it's an auxiliary branch which is necessary for the study of Vedas. And this Shiksha is also an Aparavidya. So, he is telling here four Vedas and six Vedangas are Aparavidya. Then we have, of course, Puranas, Itihasa, these, that, all this, they're all Aparavidya. Here he is giving the example of 10. Four Vedas. What part of Veda? The material part of Veda. Shiksha. Then Kalpa. What is the meaning of Kalpa? How to do a particular ritual. How to do a ritual is Kalpa. The methodology of doing a particular ritual. What kind of a homakunda should be there? What kind of agni should be, uh, lit? Which part of that particular agni, a particular oblation should be given? What kind of a vessel should be there to give oblation? In which vessel what should be there? What are the satellite yajnas? All this, of course, it is not relevant to us now because we are not following those yajnas, yagas, other things, etc. Therefore we are not aware of it. Nowadays what is said is that we don't have to study any Vedas. That's what is said now, because if you do Gayatri is the ultimate saram of all the Vedas. So if you do Gayatri mantra, it is as well as all the four Vedas. That is what many people say. It is an escapism, that's all. It's an escape route. That is not true. But it is true also that we are not doing any of these Veda Purva yajnas or yagas. They are obsolete now. Very few people are doing. Very few places like matas and some samsthanams are doing, maybe, but then it is not seen to be done in every home as grahastas used to do. So kalpa means the science of how to do the particular yaga or yajna, what to do and how to do. Then Vyakaranam. Vyakaranam is grammar. When you are studying the Veda Purva or when you are studying the Vedas, you should know how a particular word has come, from which root it has come, what are the suffixes and prefixes which have made a particular root into a particular word. This is what called as Vyakaranam. Of course, today we may not give much importance to Vyakaranam, we people, but the institutions which are, you know, training people in Sanskrit, a lot of importance is given to Vyakaranam. Learning Sanskrit is nothing but knowing Vyakaranam first, because that is how to speak, how to create a sentence, how to understand a sentence, how to break a compound, how to break a sandhi, how to join the words. All these things are by Vyakarana. Therefore, Vyakarana is also an important Vedanga, an Anga or an auxiliary branch of the Vedas. Then, what is called as the Niruktam. Niruktam is epistemology. from where a particular word has come, how it has come into use, why it has come into use. So, epistemology of every word is called as niruktam. We don't have to worry about it. Just this much, what is the meaning of these words. If we know, that is enough. Then chandaha. Chandaha means the meters with which a Vedic mantra is chanted. Meter. Every mantra has a particular meter. We say Anushtup Chandaha, Trishtup Chandaha, Gayatri Chandaha, then Jagati Chandaha, Mahati Chandaha. So we have lot of the way the words are given, so many words like Gayatri Chandaha. What does it mean? That there are 3 lines of 8 letters each, so 24 letters together. Gayatri Chandaha. Anushtup Chandaha, 4 lines of 8 varnas each. Our entire Bhagavad Gita we chanted was in Anushtup Chandaha. Occasional verses which we chanted in Trishtup Chandaha. Most of the verses in the 11th chapter were Trishtup Chandaha. Correct? So the meter in which a particular Vedic mantra is chanted, that is called as Chandas. Then Jyotisham. Astronomy and astrology is Jyotisham. In the Vedic days, astrology was not meant for predicting individuals' future. Will I get a job? What age will I get married? When will I have a child? When will this happen? When will that happen? It was not meant for individual. It only came later. In the Vedic period, astronomy and astrology were meant for what? When is the correct muhurta to do a particular yajna or yaga? When is the right time to do an auspicious, karma? When is the auspicious time to start a particular thing? And in an agricultural society, what depending upon astronomy, when is the right time to sow the seeds? When is the right time to do the agricultural activity? So these were the purposes of astronomy. Jyotisham was basically related to astronomy and later a branch of astrology where certain things could be predicted, which became astrology. But over a period of time, astrology lost its original purpose. Of course, now also it is there. Whenever a function or a brahmopadesham or a marriage or whatever, we always go to an astrologer and ask for the right muhurtam. Yes, that is there. But personal predictions on the part of entire prediction of the lifetime of a person, this was not the original purpose of astrology. So Jyotisham is astronomy and its branch astrology. So these are the 6 Vedangas. Vedangas means the auxiliary sciences which are necessary for study of the Vedas. So the 4 Vedas and the 6 Vedangas here Angiras the teacher says are aparavidyas. Why apara? Because they belong to the material sciences. The last sentence says Atha para yaya tad aksharam adhigamyate. What is paravidya? That vidya which takes you or makes you understand the Moola Karanam Brahman of this entire universe. So with this we'll stop here and in the next session we'll go a little deeper into that and to the next few mantras. ॐ नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति 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 ॐ तत्सत्